Creating something completely unique that nobody else in the world has is one reason many of us love to make our own jewelry. It's the reason I still occasionally sew my own garments. And if I got a unique project for you. These are pieces that you can make into any jewelry you like that look one color in the daylight and glow something entirely different when the lights go out. Hey there, creative people, Sandy here. Welcome to another polymer clay video at keepsakecrafts.net. So I have been playing this week with glow-in-the-dark powders, which I did a Friday Findings video on last week, translucent clay, and the concept of making hollow beads. Yes, this bead is actually hollow. What's even more cool is when the lights go out. And there it is. I think this has been in the dark for a while, so it didn't glow very much, but it actually does glow better than that. As I mentioned in the Friday Findings video, in order to use glow-in-the-dark powders, you do want to use a translucent clay so that the glow will come through. Now, this clay, I apologize, I was experimenting and I grabbed some tinted, I know it was Pardo translucent that I tinted with something. I'm not sure if it was a paint or a alcohol ink or another clay. I don't know, but I grabbed it out of my scrap bin and ended up being really happy with it. So you have to have translucent clay in order for the glow to come through. Now here's one that I made, and I added just a little bit of the Pinata alcohol ink to it and got a fairly nice purple color, and there was glow powder in this, but when I turn out the lights, well, you can see it doesn't come through at all, which is kind of sad, but oh well, what are you gonna do? Live and learn, move on. So a little experimenting is in order to find what works. You're probably not going to get a good glow if you use darker shades, so you want to focus on having a lighter shade for your main pebble, which is fine because this black, silvery, sparkly decoration looks great and really contrasts nicely with your lighter color and with the color once it glows. Now, I thought I would just play with the Sculpey glow-in-the-dark clay. This is one of the colors that comes in their set. I showed this to you last week. And I will say, this was actually much easier to form the hollow bead with than the Pardo. It just moved more nicely. It was much softer. But I don't know if you can tell the difference between these. These two were made with Pardo. This one was with the Sculpey. These two baked up pretty nice and smooth. A lot of the lumpy, bumpy bits smoothed out, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. On this one, it didn't. So although it was easier to form it, I don't think it was worth it. And what I did was I took some of this color and I mixed in, I had a pinch of this purple left over on my table and I mixed it in. And the color wasn't bad before it was baked, but now it's just kind of a gnarly pink that I really don't like. It does, however, glow. Oh, there they are. Well, the first thing you need is some Pardo clay or other translucent clay. I like the Pardo. I stopped using the Primo for most things because it just yellows on me. And I ended up using a little bit more than 1/8 of a block of clay. In fact, I have it right here. This is what was not in there. And I mixed in a drop of Pearlescent Emerald Lumiere paint by Jacquard. And I also mixed in probably a good 1/4 of a vial of aqua. What's fun about this is that this is green and it's going to glow aqua. This one's kind of a blue and it glows green. You can mix in a completely different color of the powder. These powders you can buy them colored in powder form or like whitish in powder form. So this really doesn't add any color to the clear clay until it's baked. Well, and even after it's baked, until the lights are out, you don't know it's there. And as I mentioned in that video, it's a good idea when you're mixing this powder in, it does tend to dry the clay. So add a little liquid clay, any TLS, this is the clear because I'm going to use this later. Just add some, kind of smear it on your clay, and then you can put the powders on and it sticks and it makes far less of a mess. putting it in. And you could roll it out into a sheet, which is how I did this one, and then curve it around to make your hollow form. But I thought it was much easier. I'm just going to warm this up a tiny bit. I don't want to flatten it too much, but it has been sitting overnight. Just going to warm it up a little. I found it easier to form it over something already kind of rounded, so I'm sort of halfway to making that rounded shape. This is just the top of a screwdriver. I was actually pretty happy with doing it over this. This is just a lip balm container. Rather than rolling it out in a sheet and then you still have to do this particular operation. Now notice Pardo cracking. Pardo is one of those wonderful clays that it's fantastic because of its translucency, but it is a little finicky in the way it's handled. If you want to know more about conditioning Pardo, and it's probably the only reason I use it these days, is Ginger Davis Allman's article at the Blue Bottle Tree on how to condition Pardo. You just have to work it with gentle persuasion. If you try to force it real quick, you're going to get these kind of cracks. But if you just gently push and tap and prod it, it behaves really well. So I've got a thick pancake here, and now see, I pushed that too fast and it said no! Like a cranky toddler. That's the analogy she gives, and I love that. But if you just use gentle pats and persuasion, and also this ball of clay has been, like I said, sitting overnight, start to form it around your round thing. In case you've got scraps that you're working from, I started with about a 1-inch ball of clay. Oops. Yeah, see, you move it too quick, it just like shears off. It's really interesting that way. So now I've got kind of a cup or a dish shape. The idea is that I'm going to bring this all up and around and eventually have these edges meet each other, thus trapping a bubble of air on the inside. So what I'm going to do is pinch these edges, kind of doing three things at once. I'm pinching these a little flatter, pulling them up and in, and then also pinching this edge together. You can kind of see that V that happened between my fingers. And it just takes a little bit of time and patience. Like I said, this much softer Sculpey clay did this beautifully. It did it really fast, but I never could get it as smooth as I could get these ones. So I think it's worth it to just take a little bit more time. And you just kind of work it. Speaking of time, it is now mid-June 2018, and I have been working on so many different projects. I have got several big projects in the works for you. Unfortunately, I can't tell you about any of them. It's just, you know how it is. It's not smart marketing to talk about any of these things, or I'm contractually obligated not to. And unfortunately, I'm kind of finding myself a little bit burnt out. I've been working on so many different things, and I love what I do, but you know, you can only do so much, especially as an artist and a creative person. I'm sure you know, you need a time to do other things and refill your creative well, so to speak. So I hope you all won't hate me too much if I take the month of July off from publishing videos. I just have so much to do. I will continue to make videos for my patrons, so my patrons will get their bonus tutorials in July. But I'm going to give my channel a break for the month of July. And I hope, you know, if you're dying for some creative stuff, I have nearly 600 videos on this channel. If you haven't seen them all, take a look. You can have a laugh at the quality of some of the older ones. But I haven't taken down older ones just because they were older. I've left those up so you can go watch the very first video I did. I actually never intended to start a YouTube channel. I had a blog, and the blog was just kind of a way to share with a few people, things I did, and share some tutorials because I always found myself wanting to teach. And I had done a really cool project from Club Scrap, actually. It was a memory cube thing, and it was like three-dimensional, and you flipped it and folded it, and there were pictures on the inside and outside. And I couldn't figure out how in the world to show that in still photos, which is what I had on my blog, were just stills. So I got out my little camera, it was just a little point-and-shoot camera, and made a video. And I finished making the video, and I was like, that was fun. I enjoyed doing that. And I did another one. I did another one on a scrapbooky type project. And then I did a jewelry video. I was kind of copying a piece of ready-made jewelry, a couple pieces actually. I figured out how they were made and shared how to do it. All right, let me interrupt myself here. As you get to this point, now you've got like a little pot. Isn't that cool? And now kind of start pinching from the outside because it starts to get difficult to pinch it from the inside. Just the way I was, you can only fit one finger in there. And you want to just do this slowly and carefully. So I'm kind of popping that out when I come around to it. The idea is that you don't want to have any cracks or holes or places for air to escape. So anyway, so I recorded a few jewelry tutorials because it was just fun. I really enjoyed doing it. I kind of liked editing the videos. I just enjoyed the whole process. And then I was contacted by allfreejewelrymaking.com that you'll still see them, their name on some of my older videos. And they wanted to buy from me the rights to put some of my videos on their channel. And they would pay me so much per video. All right, now I'm just kind of twisting this all together again, trying to make sure that there's no places for air to escape. And I'm just going to kind of smooth out these seams as I go. But anyways, they wanted to pay me to make videos, and I could do up to 2 a week. And I said, well, why wouldn't I do 2 a week? They're going to pay me. I could use the money. And I noticed when I started uploading 2 videos a week, my channel started to grow. And it's just been growing from there. And I've been having so much fun making creative things and knowing that I've inspired you all. So this is really cool because if you have it sealed so that there is no place for air to escape, you can feel the resistance of that pocket of air in there. And again, with the Pardo, you can just gentle nudges and persuasion, you'll be able to smooth it all out. It's really cool. The benefit of making this hollow is that it's a fairly large piece, but it's really lightweight. So it's lighter in weight for wearing, and also it uses less clay. Both benefits. And then I had thought that it would be fun to play with this with the anglerfish light, that LED lights that goes inside jewelry that I got last fall. I did a video on that, and I have yet to do another video, which I've been meaning to. I didn't have time this week to explore that as well as this technique, but I may look into that at some point, because that would be a great use of the translucent. So once you have that pretty smooth, you notice I kind of twisted off that excess at the top. You can just roll this in your palms just like you would roll a ball of clay. And as long as you can feel that resistance, now see, I could feel that it wasn't hair. I'm a hole, I'm letting the air out. Yeah. Okay, sorry. We'll smooth that out. Again, with the Pardo, just take your time, gentle strokes will smooth it out. So anyways, I love making videos for you guys, and I love it when you come to me with your ideas, with your alternates. Even I've had people say, nope, that doesn't work for me. And it turned out they were absolutely right. It was a project that I had finished the video, and then I think I probably wore the piece and went back and said, yeah, I got to change that. They're absolutely right. So it's just fun to have a community here. And over at our Patreon page, we have a community of people. If you enjoy my videos and would like to get more tutorials from me every month, my patrons have the opportunity to get up to 2 bonus tutorials every month. We cover polymer clay and jewelry at Patreon, and we're also building a nice little community over there of folks sharing their work, and I share a lot of behind the scenes stuff. So if you're interested, check out patreon.com/SandySewn for more information. All right, so that's looking pretty good. And now you just roll it in your palms, and you can really feel, it's so strange, the resistance from that pocket of air that's in there. And see how that's getting nice and smooth, which this never did. And you notice I didn't completely mix in the paint. I left it a little marbled because I thought that would be really pretty. So you can roll it in your palms until it's nice and smooth, and then you can leave it round. I like kind of an oval shape. That's sort of an egg shape. I like that. So you can continue to manipulate it. You could probably make a heart shape out of this, making a point at one end and adding a soft indent at the top. And then you put it on your tile. And you can press it down. And as I press it down, I don't know if you can see, but as I'm pressing, again, that air is resisting and it's making it nice and round. It kind of reminds me of making hollow beads out of glass when I used to do lamp working. It was a similar process. You had to build the glass up differently, but you basically, you made rings. So you would, if you pretend this is glass, which this won't be long enough to do, but you would wrap them in concentric circles around a mandrel. That's a terrible demonstration, sorry. I'll give you a link to a hollow glass bead making video if you're interested. But you wrap them around and around, and you start on here and you start here, and then you kind of curve them inward until they meet, and make sure you have no air pockets. And then because hot air expands, it's like magic doing it in glass. You just see the bubble puff out and get all smooth because glass has a very high surface tension. And with the Pardo clay, I found it did something similar. Whether it's clay or glass, hot air expands, and it pushed these both out so that they're nice and smooth. Again, I don't know what the deal was with the Sculpey clay. It didn't. It stayed lumpy. So then you just go ahead and bake this at the manufacturer's recommended temperature for about, I did it for half an hour. Okay, so I'm back, and I promised I would show you this one once it got charged up. It's been sitting in the sun. I put this one out in the sun for a while it cooled from coming out of the oven. So isn't that cool and beautiful? I just love the way it looks so different when you're wearing it. It's pretty without the glow in the dark, but then it's just so different once it starts glowing. I just think that's cool and fun. You can decorate this any way you want. You could leave it just like this. I just really like the contrast between the black lines and the pale color or the glow in the dark. So for the black clay, instead of just using straight black clay, I mixed it with some of this. This, I believe, is white gold glitter. I usually mix my black clay with equal parts black and silver, but this was just a little bit too glittery for me with a 1-to-1 ratio, so I mixed up this one, which is 2 parts black to 1 part of the white gold glitter. I just wanted to use this. I had it. I hadn't found a use for it. The silver will give you a little bit more of a subtle effect. I just like it. It kind of gives it more of a charcoal, like I said, a more subtle effect. If you want, while your clay is baking, you can just take the time to create some snakes of clay that you're going to use to decorate your shape. I love to use a tool, an acrylic block, to help me roll fairly even. You could extrude these, although I like that they're not actually 100% even. I think it's a little bit more of an interesting and organic look. And if you want, I have a couple little leaves left here from that I didn't use on the last project. You can just make some little tiny leaves. Little tiny leaves. This will probably make a dozen. Seriously. So thinking about how I'm going to hang this. I didn't really think it ahead with this one. I could have made a loop, a hanging loop with the clay strands. But I'm not sure that I want to do that just for structural and strength reasons. So I think what I would do with this is drill a hole and insert a screw bail with a loop. Or, depending on your design, and you might plan for this, drill a hole sideways. Or you could do a glue-on bail on the back, although I'm always a little suspicious of glue-on things. I'm always afraid they're going to let go. Maybe like 1/8" balls. And it depends on how many you want. I used, let's see, 1, 2, 3, what did I use, about 5 or 6 or 7. Put pressure just on one side and kind of roll to make a little cone shape. And then if you press from the rounded end towards the tip, it preserves your point. I don't know why. If you press from the pointed end to the round end, it kind of flattens it out a little bit more. It's not a huge difference. I don't really worry about it because you can fix the shape easily enough. I like to use a straight edge in here because the spaces are so small. I can just get in and manipulate these, or make a mess of them. One or the other. See, we got an oval. That's okay. Just come in and make a leaf shape again. And I'm just kind of, I know it makes that awful squeaking, sorry. I'm just kind of straightening those out. Yeah, you can use a needle tool. I like to use my blade. You just get finer lines and make a few or a lot lines. Just tap lightly. You're not trying to cut through. You just want to make a few marks to give it a little texture. By the way, if you're interested in any of the supplies I'm using, for every tutorial video I always write a blog post that has links to supplies, and you'll find that in the little iCard in the upper right or a link in the description box. There's always a card at the end of the video too at the bottom left. So you scrape it up and then just use your fingers, like your index and your thumb, and kind of pull that to a point. And I like to, this is an especially tiny one, kind of give it just a bit of a round shape. It's just so much more lively and interesting. Let me show you in this bigger one. I think that would be easier. Just have a very gentle light touch with these. And yours probably won't look exactly like mine. Yours might look better. We all have our own touch, our own fingers, our own taste. So I'm just trying to get these little curves in there to make them look more natural. Now I just hit that with my finger and I actually kind of like that. So I'm just going to pinch this end and roll it a little and call it good. There. And we'll do this last one. It's nice just to have a whole bunch of these to use as you're decorating your little pebble. Alright, so there's that. What I used to adhere my strands to my pebble is some liquid clay, and I'm using the clear. You know, one thing I noticed is that it's much, much thinner. It has a much thinner viscosity than TLS, which I kind of like because it goes on, well, thinner. So you can get just a nice fine coat that is pretty much going to smooth out and self-level. Now for this one, I kind of wrapped the strands around the back a lot, and I don't think I'm going to do that for this. I'm going to do it a little differently. So start with one of your strands and then just, I'll set this down, and have a paper towel or something to wipe your fingers off. I'm going to try not to get fingerprints in this. Roll that into a bit of a point, and then I found it's much easier to get this spiral started before you set it down. You just kind of tap it between your thumb and your finger and encourage it to spiral around. But you can adjust it more once you get it on. So I'm just going to lay that on where I want it, maybe a little off center. Maybe we'll do a big spiral. That's kind of And then, see what I mean? You can take your brush and coax that. Not there. I don't want it there. There. That's where I want it. And I'm just going to sort of wrap around the back. And depending on the length, you might want to cut off your black piece. You might want to leave it. Just going to leave a little bit on the back. And again, use my brush to kind of encourage that. Like that. And for this, you can add as much or as little as you like. I think less is more. I think if you add too much, it kind of takes away from the delicate lacy effect. I'm going to try something here. Since this is a pretty short strand, I'm actually going to try curling up both ends, because it really is easier to do it here on my fingers than, you can see I got a much, then down here on the shape, I got a much nicer, tighter curl there. Let go. Okay. Yeah, the nice thing about this clear liquid clay is, with the finer viscosity, is that it is much easier to kind of manipulate things around. I actually really enjoyed playing with it with the brush. So again, I'm going to go on the back. I don't have much on the back for that to stick on. There we go. And then bring it out again. Sorry. Oh, gosh. Yeah, that's me. Just. Well, we've changed the design. Okay. Oh, that looks good too. All right. Sure. Go with the flow. Spirals and curly cues. Look nice however you place them, right? Because I'm using the liquid clay as an adhesive, I'm not really concerned with making these touch. Another time I might be, to have them joined together and make sure that they're secure. But in this case, I'm not really concerned with that. So I'm going to send that to the back and then bring it back out to the front. So, oh, all right, fine. Be that way. And just there we go. I just want a few anchor points on the back, because what I'm going to do on the back is similar to this, only I'll plan it a little bit better. I'll cut out an oval that is about the same size as the back side and press it on, making sure that it connects to all of these bits that I have on the back. So I'll make sure and have like at least one more back here. And I'll press it into a texture sheet, especially where this is a pendant that's going to be worn and it might be worn against the skin. You want some texture so that it doesn't stick to the skin. I'm just using this one. This was one by Barbara McGuire. It's called Klimp's Carpet, as in the artist K-L-I-M-T, Klimp. Nice. Then what I did was just wherever I wanted to pop a leaf, I put a tiny bit more of the clear liquid. And you can also use your brush to sort of adjust that. And the clear will, you can see that sort of flooding in there. I didn't really find that it affected the look of the finished piece at all. I thought it looked just fine. Now I mentioned I like to make my leaves with a bit of liveliness and twist and bend, but do be careful you don't make them two-dimensional, because this is meant to be a piece of jewelry. And if you make them two-dimensional, if you make them 3D dimensional, they may catch on things as somebody's wearing it. So just keep that in mind, that if you're making a piece of jewelry, you need to consider those practical aspects. All right, that'll have to do. Oh, see how that's sticking out there? We don't want that. That will definitely catch on something, break off. There we go. Go ahead and bake it on a piece of cardstock. Now with this liquid clay has flowed around to the back side. I did find with this one that some of the paper that I baked it on kind of stuck, but it didn't matter because I peeled off what I could and then this clay went over it. And just to show you what I mean, I'll demonstrate on this really ugly piece. I just hate that color. Maybe some people like it, but I just really hate it. I'm going to roll a smooth ball. I think that'll be a little too much. Yeah, that'll be good. Kind of flatten it just a little. And this would be after this is baked. Put it back here with the little liquid clay as an adherent. And then mash it down on the texture sheet. Kind of rock it from side to side, kind of all around those edges. And well, if I had liquid clay on there, that might have been a little too much because you wouldn't want it to show from the front. But you get the idea that the back would be nicely covered with the texture with those kind of rounded edges. You could tap them down, thin them out a little bit more. You'd want to use less clay. And then bake it one more time. You could insert a bail right in here before you do the final bake. A screw bail or a glue-on bail would actually be good in here because then it wouldn't be glue-on, it would be embedded. And there you go. Really cute pendants. I hope that you enjoyed this project. There are so many possibilities, so many other things you can do with it that I know you'll just come up with new things and new ways to use these ideas. Be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and take a look at my Patreon page for how you can get bonus tutorials for yourself. Happy creating. Bye-bye.